resonate, the vibration goes into the room. And let's see if we can get a better sound of it on the box. That vibration goes all the way through, and some of you will be able to feel it physically, some of you will be able to hear it. We hit it for a microsecond, but the vibration, if it is untouched, lasts for 14 seconds, unless, of course, you put it into a vacuum and then it will go longer. What is amazing about it is that the resonation of this tuning fork identifies the like resonance in the room with it. Now, we're not going to go through the room and find out, but I put here an identical tune. They're both 440 hertz. This is the key of A. When I strike this one, the second tuning fork cannot help but respond. It vibrates and quivers like it's feeling pleasure. You can't hear it with your human ear, but you can feel it with your hand. We are the same. You probably have met someone that you vibed with, and you thought, whoa, in a microsecond, I am like this person, they are like me in some way. And that is resonance. And this resonance and this alignment is what makes our world go smoothly. Now, years ago, I got sick. I didn't just get a little bit sick. I got really, really sick. I mean, I thought it was the flu. But at the end of this flu, I couldn't walk. I had no use of my legs. I ended up in the hospital on a hospital bed, being spoon-fed. I couldn't use my arms, I couldn't use my legs. It went really, really quickly. When I first went into the hospital, they said Guillain-Barré syndrome, but by the end of the week, when all the MRIs came back, they said it's rapidly demyelinating multiple sclerosis. And I was put on a wait list for a nursing home. I had 2 little children at home, aged 2 and 4. I was responsible for them, and I was terrified. They, gave me a wheelchair. I couldn't use it at the beginning. My arms started to get a little bit better. But what was magical to me is that a friend ripped up some pages out of a magazine, stuck them in an envelope and mailed them to me, because back then we couldn't just hit forward. And that magazine article was an article about Christopher Reeves. Now, Christopher Reeves is Superman. But Christopher Reeves is also the actor that in 1996 was in a horseback riding accident where he became a quadriplegic. But he didn't just go down. He thought to himself, as humans, we use such a small percentage of our brain. We don't connect as much as we think we could. And so it's my guess, this is Christopher Reeves talking, it's my guess that if part of the brain is damaged, then the brain should be able to rewire and find another pathway through. And when I read that article, I thought, okay, I'm on it. I had seen the MRI scans. I had seen all the gray patches and the lesions and the parts where the messages weren't going through. And when a doctor would say, please lift your arm or your leg, and I would think, okay, because all of my life I had been able to respond physically and lift my arm or lift my leg, and all of a sudden I would send the message, but the message couldn't go through, and I had to find another way through. Now, doctor's orders, multiple sclerosis, was rest. The only way to get through this serious of a type of multiple sclerosis was complete bed rest. But I went with the theory that we had to find another way through. I had consulted with a beautiful physical therapist who was a friend of ours, and she set me up on a set of progressive exercises, and I will never forget, as completely indelible on my mind and my heart, the day that I pressed down my forearms on the wheelchair and I was able to lift my behind off the seat, probably enough to slide one sheet of paper under. It wasn't very much, but it was enough to know that I had found another pathway. And it was so powerful. These weren't just days of hope and using curiosity to follow through and find a pathway through. They were days where I needed to remember that while I couldn't stand on the outside of me, I could stand on the inside of me. And I needed to stand on the values that were really important to me. My family first. It was hugely driving to me that I had 2 children. I mean, now I have 3, but at that point in time I had 2. I had 2 children that needed me to come home and needed me to work hard for them. And so I did. I mean, we went through funny times. We'd be going through the grocery store, by the time I moved from wheelchair to walker, and 2 little kids would be perched side by side, and I went through the market or went through the science center, and people would say the darndest things. They would watch me roll the walker forward and then swing a leg. It was really graceful, swing the other leg to catch up with the walker, and they would say things like, "You know what, I should get one of those so I can park closer to the door." Yes, that's a good reason to get it. But what I came out of that experience with was this. It is not what happens to you, but how you respond that matters. And your attitude and your focus on your values and what is important to you is contagious. My middle child went through an illness. It was a mystery illness for several years. We ended up at a well-known pediatrician in Toronto. And the pediatrician, after running through all the tests, said to my child, "I'm just going to give you a bit of advice. It would be far better if you and your mama would focus on learning to live with this illness than finding a name for it." And my kid laughed. The doctor was a little bit taken aback. "Why are you laughing?" "My mom used to be in a wheelchair. You don't know our family. We don't quit." That is a value that is of persistence and endurance and resilience that goes through. Something that I learned is that equations can go both ways. A plus equals B, then B equals A. And I applied it to this. There's some ancient wisdom that we know in philosophy. It's in every major religion. It's in the Quran. You see it in the Tehillim. We see it in the Christian Testament. We see it in Buddhism. We see it in philosophy. The way a man thinketh is the way that he is. Your actions belie what is in your heart. Where your heart is, there your treasure is. And one day I realized that I could flip that equation. And so it wasn't just a matter of saying, as I think I do, but how then do I find out what is in my heart? What is that relationship? If my heart is where my treasure is, then if I wanted a way to know what are my values that I want to be aligned with, because I wanted to be able to resonate. I wanted what I stood on to resonate through and through so that I was aligned with where I was going. This is the secret that top success performers throughout history know. That when they are aligned with what they do, with what their mouth says, and what their heart feels, they will find success. If A equals B, then B equals A. And so I started looking through what are our treasures. Our treasures are time, energy, and money. These are our treasures. So if I substituted into this phrase, where your heart is, there your treasure is, where your heart is, there is your time, energy, and money. And then I say, okay, I want alignment between that, because alignment is where the power is. So if I want to know where is my heart, then I can look and say, well, that's a good question. Where am I spending my time, energy, and money? When I was sick, my heart was to come home. My heart was to demonstrate the values of persistence and resilience to the children that were depending on me to grow them up, to lead them. My value was on the clients that I was still taking care of from the hospital, teaching entrepreneurs to build their businesses and that their dreams were worth building. And so those values went through. But in the rest of my life, on the other days, when I didn't have such a serious fight on, how do I know I'm aligned? Fairly simple. If you want to, I'll give you a couple of examples. If you're in a relationship and you say with your mouth, this relationship is really important to me. You mean the world to me. You're my everything. Okay? Then let's look at where you put your treasures. And if you do an accounting and a tracking, and you realize that you're spending minuscule amounts of time with the person that you say that you're really in love with, and that's your partner, then you either need to acknowledge that you have a lower value, or you need to raise your resource spend. It's the same with when you're going to school. If you say grades are really important to me, there's nothing more. I'm here to study, I'm going to get the top grades, I'm going to put out the best projects, okay? Then how much time is being spent on scrolling? How much time is being spent on gaming? If the amount of time doesn't align with the results that you want, then you need to either acknowledge that your value is on the low side, or you need to increase your resource spend. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to words. I love finding out what's behind a word. And there's a word that has gone through as almost a trend word. If you look at the graph on the use of words, we haven't seen the use of the word authentic in our world since 1800s. Authenticity comes from a Greek word, authentis. This word means to act under one's own authority. Well, if we're going to talk about alignment, if we're going to talk about success, your power comes in when you act under your own authority. This is where your authenticity comes in. When you take your power to say, this is how I'm going to be aligned. You, each of you that are listening to this, are in charge of your own resource spend, your time, energy, and money. Now, of course, we go through seasons. We go through seasons of our life. When you're a new parent and you have a new baby, no one would say you have a high value on diapers, even though you have a significant amount of time spent changing them. When you're in school, no one would say that the most important thing necessarily to you is to attend classes on time, because that's not something you're necessarily going to do the rest of your life. So there are seasons where we will see that our resource spend waxes and wanes. But at the end of the day, what you want to see is that your values are aligned with your resource spend. And so what I want to give you 3 steps today that you can implement already. So when you walk out of here, you're literally not in the same place that you were when you came in, because you have a tool that you can go home and say, am I aligned with where I want to go? Are my resources being spent in alignment with that? Am I being authentic? This is not a word to just throw around in marketing, and it's not a word to just rattle around in your brain. It's a word for you to use in order to line up and make sure that you're aligned. And here are the 3 steps. Number 1, track your resource spend. Whether you need to take out a spreadsheet, get a special journal, but start seeing, where do I spend my time? Where do I spend my money? What does that show me about my values? What does that show me about where my heart is? Now, compare what it shows on your tracking sheet to what the values are that you want to have, and then adjust your resource spend to go with your values. 3 very, very simple steps that you can take with you out of here so that you can live every moment of your day in alignment with your values. Your authentic alignment between your values and your resource spend determines your success. Just like we hit this at the beginning and we listened to it resonate through the room, when we want to look and see what are we resonating with, this is going to impact the people that you spend time with. It's going to impact the activities that you're involved with. It's going to impact the courses you take, the universities you go to, the businesses that you build. But when you are in alignment, you will stand with the most successful people in the world throughout all of history. There is really, sincerely, nothing you can do than take this very ancient idea that's worth sharing. And look at your heart and look at your treasures and see where that is aligned. And that is where you can go out and take the change that you're making inside of you and let that ripple out and start other ripples in the world around you. Thank you very much for listening to my video worth sharing tonight.